everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome to my YouTube channel. There is so many new people here, and it's actually crazy. So before we do anything, I just want to say thank you so much for 900 subscribers. That's actually crazy because my yearly goal for this year and resolution was to only hit 500 by the end of the year, and we're at 900 like by February. So that's actually insane, and thank you so much for sticking around to do silly little reading things with me, and I'm so happy that you're here. Anyways, in today's video, we are going to be discussing a TBR for 25 books that I want to read in 2025. I'll start anything, just gotta be honest, like, the seasonal depression has really been hitting me recently, so the motivation to, like, do anything, including filming this, is really at an all-time low right now. So if I seem down or if I seem like less energetic, my bad, but I'm also drinking this Dr. Pepper because sugar gets me yapping, and so hopefully that'll help. Anyways, so into the TBR we go. I'm gonna be transparent and say that this list is just super random because I was trying to do books that were on my TBR, but that weren't a part of like series that I was wanting to finish, because that's honestly most of what my TBR is just, you know, finishing series that I'm in the middle of, which I want to do a separate video for that. But I'm saying, like, for books that I want to like get to this year and milestones that I want to mark, things that have been on my TBR for a really long time, specifically standalones. I do have a few in here that are like the last books, like in a duology, and I thought that was fine, but I just didn't want to do anything that was like an ongoing series. And if I did one of those, my bad. But yeah, so let's get into it. A lot of these I do have the physical copy of, and most of this is honestly just me trying to get rid of my physical TBR. But yeah, and then the ones I don't, you know, we'll put a picture, whatever. Anyways, so number 1 on the list is The Great Alone by Kristin Hannah. If you don't know, I am a huge Kristin Hannah fan. I usually, like, before I started reading her, I was not into historical fiction, like, at all. Bored me to death. But ever since reading her, like, I can't get enough. Every single one of her books has been, like, a 5-star or a 6-star book for me. And I don't know, she just portrays people's lives in such a way that you feel like you're right there with them. Especially The Nightingale, that was a 6-star book for me. Literally, I've never sobbed harder over a book in my life, and it genuinely just impacted me so much. So, do I know what this is about? No, but we're gonna find out. So, I do know that this is set in Alaska, and I really genuinely don't know anything else about it other than that, and that people really love this. So, if people are recommending any Kristin Hannah book, I'm going to read it, because obviously I just trust her anyway. I would probably pick up a random book and read it not knowing anything about it as long as it was by her. So that is the first one on our list. Number 2, this one has been on my physical TBR for a long time as well, and that's If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. And from what I understand, it's kind of like a Shakespeare kind of mystery almost. So the back says, on the day Oliver Marks is released from jail, the man who put him there is waiting at the door. Detective Colburn wants to know the truth, and after 10 years, Oliver is finally ready to tell it. A decade ago, Oliver is one of 7 young Shakespearean actors at Delattre Classical Conservatory, a place of keen ambition and fierce competition. In the secluded world of firelight and leather-bound books, Oliver and his friends play the same roles on stage and off: hero, villain, tyrant, temptress, ingenue, etc. Extra. But in their 4th and final year, good-natured rivalries turn ugly, and on opening night, real violence invades the students' world of make-believe. In the morning, the 4th years find themselves facing their very own tragedy and the greatest acting challenge yet, convincing the police, each other, and themselves that they are innocent. It just sounds so good, and I'm really into, like, dark academia books and just thrillers in general, so I'm so excited for this book. Anyways, sometimes I cringe myself out, and then I just sit here and regret all of my life decisions. But it's okay. You know, we keep going, we keep pushing, and I have to give myself energy now. Alrighty. Oh, this wasn't even number 3. Hold that. Number 3 is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, which is not out yet, but I believe is coming out in March. I'm so freaking excited for this book. I spent all of my middle school years and high school obsessed with the Hunger Games trilogy. And now I guess the fourth, or the prequel. I didn't like that book as much. Unpopular opinion. Anyways, but they literally have just played such a pivotal role in my life, and we are finally getting Haymitch's story in this book, and I know it is absolutely gonna wreck me and anything left of my mental health or sanity, but it's okay because it's worth it, and it's Haymitch, and I'm so freaking excited and so freaking scared for this book, but it is probably one of, if not my most anticipated read of this year. So hopefully that goes well. Number 4 is Town Lake by Ann Patchett. I specifically want to listen to the audiobook of this, even though I have the physical copy. I may read along and like listen to it because the audiobook is narrated by Meryl Streep, and apparently is a lot better than just like reading it, and it sounds like she's actually telling the story to you. So basically, if I understood correctly, this is about a woman who basically used to be like a Hollywood actress, and she's telling her grandkids about the story of her life. Moving on. So that's that. Hopefully that will be very good. I've never, well, actually, that's a lie. I have barely tipped my toe into literary fiction, and I kind of want to start reading that more. So hopefully this is a good book for that. Also, if I'm not mistaken, there may be some spice in this, and if there is, and you have read this book and you know what chapters it's in or what scenes, like, and you could tell me ahead of time, so because I personally skip over those, that would be great, and that would be very helpful, so I'm not just like running into things blind. But thank you very much if you do. And anyways, number 4. Wait, are we on number? Nope, we're on number 5. I lied to you, my bad. 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I started this book a little bit ago, and I feel like this was like, I don't know, I wanted to read something else, and I just couldn't. And I think I was also in a little bit of a book slump. But it's basically about this woman who lives in an apartment, and this man shows up one day who was in the apartment 7 years before, and it turns out it's like a time travel romance. So I'm very excited about it, and I think it'll be really good. And yeah, and it looks like very fallish, so I may save that until like fall months. But yeah. Anyways, and a lot of people rated that highly as well. And then number 6 is Hillbilly Elegy by J.D. Vance, who is now our vice president. But I had seen this book before any of this happened, and I really was intrigued by it because I'm trying to read more nonfiction, especially like memoirs. And I really wanted to because, especially like, you know, hillbilly growing up in like poverty. I come from West Virginia in a very poverty-stricken like area, and it's not portrayed correctly in a lot of literature, and 2, it's not really talked about, and that's kind of like, you know, especially like like in Appalachia, you know, where I'm from, and also like that whole region, people usually like tend to make fun of it or poke jokes at it, and I'll admit I've joked as well, but it's a very like real problem like in our like economic state in America, and just opening our eyes to what's really going on I think is so important. So that's why I really want to read this book and see what all the hype is about, but also just trying to relate to somebody else from kind of the same background. Anyways, moving on. Number 7 is Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. This is basically, if I have remembered, here we go, okay. A charming novel about a crime that never took place, a would-be bank robber who disappears into thin air, and 8 extremely anxious strangers who find they have more in common than they ever imagined. So I think all of these people like experience a bank robbery, and then they kind of like go into bonds from there. I've heard that this is surprisingly like comedic, even though it deals with serious topics, and I think that is exactly what I need. I've heard a lot of good things about Fredrik Backman, and I think this would be kind of a perfect thing for me because the way I cope with a lot of my PTSD and a lot of like just stress and anxiety in general is dark humor, and I'm hoping that this book will give that to me because not a lot of books do, and if it does, I will be very, very, very happy. Number 8 is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I'm really excited about this book because it's like writing letters and a love romance, and it's also set like in the 1900s, I believe, or 1800s. I don't even know how far back, but it's more of a historical fantasy kind of deal. But yeah, I'm very excited, and I really hope I can get into this because I've heard lots of good things. The only thing I'm worried about is the sequel, because people have said that that one goes just a lot slower. But hopefully I will be obsessed with this book as much as everybody else is. 9. I've actually already read this one. I managed to read it in January, and that is The Rom-Commers by Katherine Center. And I rated this book, I think, either 3 or 4 stars. It was really good. I think it was a lot more lighthearted than Katherine Center typically tends to be. The only other one that was as, like, not fluffy, because it definitely had some deeper elements to it, but as lighthearted as this one was Hello Stranger, which I did give a 5 star. I think the only one, like, reason I didn't with this one is I don't know what it was about it. It just wasn't, like, kind of hitting the same as her previous writing had. But I love every book that she writes. I would highly recommend, especially, like, again, like I said, Hello Stranger, What You Wish For. I definitely want to read, like, just the rest of her books. They're so good. And the thing is like, I'm learning to find out that I am, like, when I read romance books, I want something deeper than just something fluffy. And her characters really give you that. They go into emotional depth. They have, like, conversations that matter. They have topics that matter. And it's honestly just a really good time. And so, yeah, I read that one and it was really good. And I would recommend it. There was no spice. But that one is basically about 2 writers, and one is a very famous screenwriter for movies and stuff, and then this other one is this girl who's struggling in her screenwriter career, but she loves screenwriting rom-coms, and this famous screenwriter gets this job to write a rom-com, and she gets the opportunity to write it with him because he sucks at writing it. So it's really funny and it's really good, and I would just recommend it. Anyways, number 10 is Firefly Lane by Kristin Hannah. Guys, I know, another Kristin Hannah book, but it's okay because this one I am really, really excited about, because other than The Nightingale, this one is probably one of people's favorites, and it's about 2 best friends, and we don't get that a lot in literature. That's also what I like about Kristin Hannah, is it's not, you know, typical, like, even though a lot of times it's historical fiction, it's not about the typical things that historical fiction is usually about. Like, The Nightingale is about, like, the Holocaust, but it's not about the concentration camps and everything, though that is extremely important and worthy to be written about, and it needs to be written about. But she writes about these women who helped, you know, people get out and helped fly missions and do all these things that's never talked about, and she, you know, brings that to the spotlight and honors their sacrifice, and I think that's so beautiful. But again, like Friends, we don't see a lot of friendships in books these days that are, like, just purely a book about friends and the deep, especially girlhood, that is between best friends. And if you're a girly, you get that. And, like, I just wanted to see it. I want to feel in this book what I feel between me and my best friend. Just, like, you know, like, there's something deeper there that even, like, than romantic love, there's just, you know, like, your soulmates in a different way. And I think that I'm really hoping she'll portray it very accurately and very good. So yeah, there's that. And then 11, I don't own this book. I've actually started to read it before, and I was absolutely insanely in love with it. But it was a school copy, and I stopped myself reading it because I was like, okay, guys, like, I really want to annotate this, and I can't annotate a school copy. So I paused, and hopefully I'll get it so I can annotate it. But that is The Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. This is basically about 2 demons, and Uncle Screwtape is writing to his nephew about how to lead, like, humans away from God and how to torture them. And it's genuinely, like, is so much deeper than people treat it as. I think if you don't think, like, deeply and philosophically a lot, or, you know, just in that kind of way, then it may not be for you. You may not get it in the way that other people will. But for me, I was like, getting better lessons from that book, that piece of fiction, than I have in a lot of sermons over the course of my life. Because if you don't know, I'm a Christian, and that's probably the biggest part of my life. No, it is the biggest part of my life. My bad. But yeah, and so C.S. Lewis is just a genius writer, and I love him so much, and I really want to learn more from him, and I have another one of his books coming later. And then number 12, I have this book, I don't know where it's at, but that's Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. And I was actually in a theater production last year of Les Mis, where I was Grantaire, and I also was the factory girl who ends up getting in a fight with Fantine, as well as a bunch of other, like, you know, just characters that are memorable, but, like, you know, aren't technically leads. But anyways, this story and this musical has been so dear to my heart for so long, and I really am excited to read the book behind it. And number 13 on the same note is Phantom of the Opera, and also love this musical. Like, I will, till the day I die, always love Christine. And even though I'm not a soprano, I still love her and still wish I could sing those songs. But yeah, I'm thinking of doing a video later where I read, like, books based that, you know, inspired musicals. So stay in tune for that. Number 14, I don't have this one yet because it's coming out February 10th, and that is It's a Rendezvous by Poppy Leanne. I'm so excited to read this book. This book is written by one of my best friends. Like, my friend wrote a book. Are you kidding me? Like, that's actually crazy. But it's basically what pretty much every girl has been, like, Christian girl has been waiting for in the romance genre. And it's about a Christian girl who falls in love with her atheist friend. And just the struggles and all of that. But it takes place in Paris. Like, are you kidding me? Like, this is literally everything in a book I've ever wanted. I've never been more excited. Like, I can't wait to review it on this channel and to support her, and it's so amazing, and I love her so much. Anyways, number 15 is The Case for Christ by Lee Strobel. I think I'm pronouncing that. If I'm not, my bad. There's a movie on this, and I watched that when I was very young, and I finally got the copy on my hands. Basically, this is about a man who is an atheist and goes on the journey to finding Christ and finding, like, the scientific proof and searching everything, you know, to see if God really does exist, and he ends up becoming a Christian. And even if, you know, like, you're not a Christian, like, I will never hate on you, I will never judge you, I will never, you know, like, condemn you for your beliefs. That's not what this space is, but I also will be sharing my faith quite often, and it's not forcing my religion down your throat. It's just simply, like, talking about it, because this is such a big part. It is the biggest part of my life. And yeah, so if you will, I ask you that you will stay along with me while I go on my own journey to finding truth in the gospel. Anyways, so that is one I'm very excited about. And then number 16 is another C.S. Lewis book called Till We Have Faces. I'm super excited. My English teacher, who's, like, one of my best friends, I love her so much, she has recommended this, like, over and over to me. And it's a retelling of the Greek myth of Cupid and Psyche, or Psyche. And her older sister, I can't remember her name at the moment, I'll put it on the screen, and how all of this goes on. But I'm super excited for that as well. And I love anything that retells Greek myth. Like, come on now. Percy Jackson, where you at? And then, speaking of Percy Jackson, number 17 is a whole series, which is Trials of Apollo. Guys, I know. Like, how can you be a Percy Jackson fan and not have read Trials of Apollo? Here's the thing, is, like, from my personal experience, meeting Percy Jackson fans, a lot of people have not read that series, because the people who have say it's not that good, and it just kind of goes off the rails. And then we got the new books coming out. So as much as I love these, I've just, like, been very hesitant to read that one because people say it's just not as good. But I am very determined to do it this year because obviously we've got this show season 2 coming out. We've got, you know, just so many new things. I need to be caught up. I need to be in on the fandom. And most of you who subscribed recently are Percy Jackson fans. So I'm probably going to do maybe a 3-part series where I reread these 2 and then read Trials of Apollo and maybe the new books if I get my hands on them. So stay in tune for that. And then, 18. This one is another one in the series. I know I said I wasn't going to do that, but we get a new one every year and I'm just like, I want to get to the end. I want to know what happens, but it's okay. And that's Unraveled by Shannon Messenger. I know this looks young for an 18-year-old, okay? I get it. But I've been with this book, like, series since 2014, and it came out in 2012. So it's literally been going for that long. It's got technically book 10. We were supposed to get the last book in the series, but then she was like, there's all this information that we didn't get from Keith's point of view, and now we have it. And Keith is literally one of my favorite book boyfriends of all time. And I'm so excited. It is very, like, technically YA, but it's kind of like Harry Potter, you know, like how the kids grew up with the series and then adults, you know. But that's what this is for me. And I'm still obsessed, and I still want to read it, and I still want to find out what happens, because, good Lord, it's going on forever. But it doesn't feel like it's dragging. Like, the time period between books feels, like, long, but the books themselves, like, it really genuinely does feel like just that much information to tell. Like, it doesn't feel like she's pulling out of nothing for a money grab, if that makes sense, which some series that I love are doing that at the moment. But this one doesn't feel like that. Anyways, and then the next one is the ending to a duology, or hopefully it's a duology. If there's a trilogy, I'm literally gonna flip, which is The Prisoner's Throne. Here's the thing, is people rave about this book, okay? They rated this one, and The Stolen Heir, my gosh. And people rate these like 5 stars, okay? And you know what? Good for them, but it just did not hit the same as somebody who is like unhealthily obsessed with the Folk of Air trilogy with Jude and Cardan. Like, if you see my Pinterest board of the fan art, it has literally over like 3K pins. Anyways, not the point. Point is, these two just did not hit it for me. Like, especially the first one, I was just like, okay, I'm kind of bored. Like, when is this over? I don't connect with the characters as much, like, at all, actually. And it's just, where is this going? So hopefully this one is better. I may try, I really don't want to reread the other one. I really don't, because I genuinely did not enjoy my time. But I may try to reread that one just to see if it was, like, you know, the season of life I was in. Because that's the thing, is, like, depending on where you're at in life at the moment, sometimes books are going to hit differently for you. So, like, I could read a book, like, right now, and it may be horrible, but read it a few months later when I'm just in a completely different season of where I'm at mentally, and it could be amazing, if that makes sense. So, I think that could have been a possibility with The Stolen Heir, so I may think about going back and being like, oh, okay, I get this now, but part of me thinks that's not gonna happen, because I really just didn't, like, I just didn't vibe with it, but that's okay. And really, the only reason I want to read these anyway is for the little snippets of scenes we get of Jude and Cardan, okay? Let's be for real. And then, next one is number 20, and that's Where the Library Hides. This is the ending of a duology with Where the River, or What the River Knows, hello, by Isabel Ibanez, or, I'm so sorry if I pronounced that wrong, like, genuinely. But it's honestly so fun. When I saw the cover of What the River Knows, I knew I had to get it. Like, I didn't even know what it was about, but I was like, when I was in elementary school, I was obsessed, like, on another level with Egyptian mythology. Like, I never discovered the King Chronicles or anything like that, but this was before even, like, Greek mythology hit with me with Percy Jackson. Like, I was obsessed with ancient Egypt. Like, I researched it, like, at no tomorrow. And so, when I discovered, like, they had, like, a girl version of basically Indiana Jones going to hunt in Egyptian temples, and it had to do with Cleopatra, I was like, hello, this is literally for me. And I was so excited, and it's such a good book, and it's so fun. It really feels like watching an Indiana Jones movie, and there's romance, and it's so good. And I'm genuinely so excited for this one, because it has to do with the Library of Alexandria. Oh, and Nez and Wit are literally one of my favorite couples ever. They're just amazing. Anyways, 21, Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. Now this one, she is a Christian author, and this is based off of the biblical story of Hosea and I think it's Gomer. Yes, Hosea and Gomer. And when the Lord told Hosea to marry a prostitute to represent to the people an example of Israel turning away from God, like, over and over, and how he still loved and pursued her anyway. Or God loved and pursued Israel. And so she writes this book, and the thing is I keep putting this one off, not because I don't, like, oh, I'm an adult, I can read, like, you know, explicit content now, but I'm just, based on things I've been through in my life, I get triggered very easily with these kind of things, and it's hard to say that online and hard to be vulnerable. But yeah, so this one may not be one that I can hit this year. I put it on the list, but it just may not be one that I read just because of some of the content, and I don't know if I'm completely ready for that. But you know, by, you know, November or whatever, I may be in a completely different mental state. I may be more over it, more coped, and then hopefully I can read this. But that's one thing I always want to promote on this channel, is just sticking to your boundaries, because especially in the world of reading, there's a lot of peer pressure to read what everybody else is reading, or to like things that other people like. But like, it's okay to have your own boundaries for certain things, and it's okay not to have the same boundaries as others. And I think a lot of times people ignore the fact that people do struggle with stuff, and people do like read certain things to cope with things. And so I just never want this place to be a place of judgment for judging anybody for what they read or the boundaries that they have. And I want you to have the courage to stick to your own boundaries, because I definitely have not had that in my life sometimes, and I regret the choices that I made because I wanted to be like everybody else. But anyways, sorry for that little deep life chat. Good griefy. Anyways, 22, Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This has been on my TBR for a very long time now. Again, like I said, I'm just not a fluffy romance person, so I tend not to read them. But I'm really hoping I'll like this one, because a lot of my friends have, and it has a lot of rom-com-like references, and I am a rom-com girly. I love all the classics, like 10 Things I Hate About You, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, what's another one? Oh, Made in Manhattan, The Wedding Planner, all of those. There's so many good ones, and this one has a lot of movie references, so I'm really excited for that. And I'm hoping it will feel just like a rom-com. And then number 23, I do have this one, is A House of Salt and Sorrows, which is a retelling basically of the 12 Dancing Princesses, but with sirens. And I'm very, very excited for this. And it's been on my shelf for a very long time, so hopefully that will get off. 24 is The Storied Life of A.J. Fickery by Gabrielle Zevin. If I'm not mistaken, she also wrote Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. And I haven't read that one. I didn't seem like, when I read the summary of it, I didn't feel as interested in the plot. But this one, everybody's been like rating it super high, and it's basically about a man who owns a bookstore, and everything in his life is going to pieces. The bookstore's failing, and then this package arrives, and it gives him this chance to turn his life around. And so I'm very excited, because I've seen videos, basically people compare it. It's like a short like book, but it has so much impactfulness in it, and that's kind of how I felt like about books like The Great Gatsby, where it was like just so short, but it stays with you for so long. So I'm hoping that's what this will be for me. And then 25 is another Catherine Center book, and that's Happiness for Beginners. I just wanted to add another Catherine Center book because, again, she's so good. And her older books, honestly, in my opinion, are so like much better. I feel like she's kind of fallen like into writing what's more selling right now, which is like this contemporary like fluffy romance feel, which is fine, and that's great for her. It's getting her like money. But for me, I just personally prefer like the style of her older writing, and I really want to read this one because also it has a movie, and I'm so excited to watch that because all of her books deserve movies. Okay, all of them do, and I'm very, very excited for that. And that's it. That is 25 books I want to read in 2025. Thank you for staying here and watching me be silly and goofy and talk about books that I want to read. And if you have a 25 TBR for 25, let me know in the comments below. Planning to do a wrap-up of January and February together, but I will be trying my best to make content for you and to be here for you. And I love you guys so much. Bye.